Okay, let's begin. I am Lanice Antoine Shelley, and I'll be your host through constructive, healing-based conversations designed to illuminate the adoptee, parents, and the adoption curious. We center the topics around community, mentorship, leadership, and healing, so you get a multi-dimensional view that is ultimately empowering. These are the voices who could not speak when they were young. Hey y'all, if you've seen me on Instagram, I'm in my summer glow phase and I am unapologetic about it. My hair is luscious. Fun fact, I didn't start properly treating and doing my own hair until I was a grown adult because like many Black adoptees, no one showed me how to do my own hair. And because I love you all so much, I'm going to share with you my hair secret. I'm always on the lookout for things you'd love and things that will enhance your well-being inside and out. We Unique Cosmetics sent me their Moisture Lock pomade and scalp and hair therapy oil from their Metamorphosis line, and it's so decadent, light, and nourishing, fam. This has become a hair routine staple. It has a soft lemongrass scent that people comment on when I walk by or when they're doing my hair because now I have boho locks. They also sent me a 15% discount link for you to try their products and hair tutorial service. And Unique Cosmetics is Black owned and operated by a mother and daughter duo dedicated to helping the adoptee community. Check out the link in the show notes. And this is for all ages, fam. So tell your friends. So come on, embark on a hair-loving journey with We Unique World. From interactive workshops to premium products, they're all about empowering you to embrace your unique hair journey. Because remember, all hair is good hair, especially when it's healthy. Good day, friends. How's your heart? This week was definitely a mixed bag of manifesting some exciting things like a new apartment. Yay! I'm so excited. That I'll move into in August, while also having little to no sleep. It was brutal this week. I do quite a few things that help me to slow down at night, such as take spoonful of calm magnesium. I drink lavender mint rosemary tea. I soak in an Epsom salt candlelit bath. I turn down the lights so that I reduce the blue light pollution. Sidebar, if you've not looked up how to block blue light, please do. It will change your life and help regulate not only your circadian rhythm, but your hormones as well. And I cool down with soothing affirmations or poetry on SoundCloud. I try to turn off, if I'm watching TV, I try to turn off the Netflix an hour or two before bed. This is every single day, my friends. I am a workaholic and my mind is a Mack truck, so these rituals help slow me down biologically, spiritually, psychologically. If you're an over-functioning person like myself, you understand. Today's episode takes a deep dive into my perfectionism, boundaries, and people-pleasing. I did not intend for it to play out that way, but when I met Amy Geller, today's guest, I was unarmed. She has a magical Jedi way of getting down to the root of the issue in a matter of minutes. I could have talked to her for hours. I can see why she's so successful in her work, helping clients through depression, anxiety, trauma, grief, loss, and adoption. Amy is a licensed clinical social worker, professional advocate member Association for Training and Attachment in Children, and a member of the American Adoption Congress. As you'll hear, Amy truly has a gift for listening, healing, and guiding into deeper awareness. Let's get started. So much content came to the surface when I Googled you. And so thank you for sending me your website because I was just looking at all the work that you've been doing. And I'm like, okay, trying this.
As you know, in the space that we live, the more your heart is open, right? And the more you manifest things, the more things just line up, they align, right? And so it's like this conversation is happening just at the right time.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and my life has, the more I get on that path, the more things just fall into place and make sense.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I live very intuitively and I'm sacrally driven. And so, therefore, when things happen, I'm just like, okay, this is meant for me. What do I do with it now? So I love that you think the same way.
I
I'm
feel
on your
like that
website
is,
now.
I feel like that's a superpower we have. Unfortunately, I think with trauma or um, being highly intuitive
Hmm.
is a survival instinct. And then if you can learn to harness that and live in that,
Yeah.
peace with that, it's actually such a gift.
Oh, most definitely. Well, then let's talk about that because I'm on your website now and I love what you have to say about there are moments when life provides you with a transformative opportunity to find your calling. And I know that you found your calling through that. I want to know more. What is your calling and how did you know that it was your calling?
I went into social work just because I chose it as a career. I went straight from college. I always wanted to help people. And my path in my career was I worked in a hospital and then I found hospice care, end of life, loss, bereavement. And of course, something just pulled me into that. And so for a time, that was my calling. And then eventually I went into private practice 10 years ago. And having had a tumultuous adolescence myself, I was always very drawn to working with teenagers. They kind of excite me. They don't scare me. Um, when I started working with teenagers and taking cases that other people kind of were shying away from, it looked like this. I was getting ninth grade girls, and the parents would call me and they would give me all these things that were going on. And they would say at the end of the phone call, oh, and incidentally, she was adopted.
Mm.
Lenny, my first 2 years in practice, I would say I had 35 adoptees. And I was in a supervision group at the time. And so I was talking about my work and I was sharing reflectively that I too was adopted.
Mm.
And I got so much support as my fellow clinicians were like, this is something is that someone's knocking on the door
Yeah.
and it's going to be up to you if you answer it. And I was like, these girls are acting just like me. They're behaving just like I did. I need to understand this. And so that was really the beginning of doing this. And I fought it. I fought for some time choosing a specialty or having a thing, particularly a thing that, a community that I myself am a part of. But I mean, it's just like we started this conversation, that the doors just kept flying open and I
Mhm.
kept walking through them. And so here it's truly, I believe, what life is asking of me.
Mm. Yeah, I feel that as well. About a year ago, a door opened for me to reunify with my biological aunt.
Mhm.
And then that quickly catapulted to opportunities for she and I to collaborate on adoption centric material and create a panel series that did exceptionally well. And then I knew I had to do a podcast. And then here I am a year later in season 2 and trying to connect and continue this work. So I totally hear you on that. Wow, that is absolutely transforming. And how did that transform your stories around your adoption, the interactions with these children, with these teenagers?
Well, there was that moment, right? You asked about courage in your email. There was
Mm-hmm.
that moment where, as therapists, we are really taught, and I don't think this suits us, but we are taught to be sort of blank slates and to go into the room with like no preconceived ideas or to share too much about yourself. And at some point, I decided to come out that I was adopted to my clients to share a very big piece of myself. But in order to do so, I really had to know what that meant for me. And in the process, I had been married and divorced after 7 years. And I spent a good part of my adult life very successful at work and very unsuccessful in relationships.
Mm.
And so that was like sort of the side piece for me, is that I was able to ultimately figure that out. And I just got married in
Mhm.
May. Um,
Congratulations.
and I really, thank you. And I really understood why I wasn't getting out of my own way in romantic relationships.
Mhm.
Um, Really powerful, because now my work has sort of expanded into adults who struggle. They struggle to have love and to connect.
Mhm. I definitely fall into that category of excelling professionally and in love and in relationships. I have fallen short of the glory several times. And what can you say through your research? What is that for an adoptee specifically, do you think? Or is that just a universal tale that everyone is experiencing? I feel like with my adoption, there are things that are seeping into the romantic realm that I'm not catching. What do you think about that?
So, what I've learned is that there's so much about attachment that is biologically based, right? Our brains are just basically purely wired for survival and safety. And then everything else on top of that is like emotion and the way we perceive things. But I think for me, I had major attachment issues. And I could connect with lots of friends, and felt like a very connected mother to my two children. But I would get to a point where 3 months into a relationship, I was out. I would either find a reason to be out, or I would blow up something that they did, or whatever it was. I was the queen of the 3 month relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
for years, I would sit on my therapist's couch and say, I will do anything. Like, I want this so badly. Like, I want to figure it out. But I was also thinking it was a lot of them and not me. And then at some point, I realized I'm choosing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I feeling safe and trusting a relationship is so scary for me. And not even emotionally, like in my brain. And so, what it comes down to for me is really understanding that at any point that we are separated from our biological mother, that is trauma to the brain. And then our brain acts accordingly. And it's really hard for a lot of people to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
But once you do, everything kind of starts to make sense. And you can say, okay, I need to do things to rewire my brain. And we store those feelings in our body, and they pop up when we get triggered. And abandonment and loss, I mean, every human being experiences that, right? But we, I think, experience it so intensely.
Absolutely. This past year, I think a year ago this month, I discovered that I have codependency traits, and I had never considered that because we have this idea of what codependency means,
Right.
and it is wrong. It's so far off from what it actually means and how it shows up in one's life. And when I read Codependent No More, I that my world just blew open when it came to dating, because I had been trying to prove my worth this whole time. Immediately I would like love bomb people with acts of service. And I had no idea that I was doing that. And then I would end up resenting them because they didn't reciprocate with the same ferocity that I engaged with. And so from your professional point of view, what do you think about that in the adoptee realm, codependency?
Oh, there's a lot of, well, think about identity formation.
Mm-hmm.
So we have missing pieces, whether we know what those pieces are or we don't. So it's hard to have a fully formed sense of self. And so oftentimes people don't start figuring that out and making peace with that until they're in middle age, like where I am, either because they feel like they have to wait until their adoptive parents are, no longer around as they age, or just, a sense of independence. Maybe relationships are failing, but not having a complete sense of who you are lends itself to codependency and people pleasing. And when you have this feeling that you were relinquished, even if logically your adoptive family loves you, reassures you, tells you everything, your baby brain says, this can happen again. So we're constantly trying to prove our worth, to assure that we stay, that people approve of us. And we are constantly looking for reassurance from our partner that you won't leave me. And a lot of times what that means is we take on completely being responsible for another person's happiness and wellness. And think about when parents choose to adopt, there's a reason, right? Often it's infertility. Maybe they want to add to their family. In my parents' case, they had 4 boys and they wanted a girl. Many people believe there's children who need homes, and that's a wonderful thing. But oftentimes there is a need, and we are brought into a home to fill a need. And we sense that, I think. So, and furthermore, because we are people pleasers and high achievers often, don't you find that in our community?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely fall into that.
Yep. We work 26 hours a day. We say yes to everything. We will not say no to a friend who wants to meet us for coffee, lunch, dinner, or breakfast. And that sort of sets us up to be a perfect partner for a narcissist. Have you experienced that?
Oh, absolutely. And even in my friendships, I recently got into a tiff with one of my best friends because I felt like I was responsible for her happiness. And after love bombing, as I do with everyone in my proximity, and there was one time that I didn't show up for her in a way that she thought was appropriate for the situation. And she admonished me. And I was so angry by that because all the other times that I showed up for her, I felt that this was unfair. And so I love that you're bringing up so many great juicy bits, and I'm trying not to make this a personal therapy session. But the idea of people pleasing, which the majority of my adult life, I never thought I was a people pleaser until the past 3 years or so. And now I'm trying to heal that. What do you think are some actionable steps for people to heal that?
Let me ask you, Lenise, how do you feel when you feel you've disappointed somebody?
I feel, I guess, devastated to some extent, because I am a perfectionist. I do like people to think of me as someone who's reliable, someone who shows up 1,000% to everything. And so when I fall short of that, I feel like it's a personal inner child attack,
I love you use such a strong, powerful word like devastated, because when other people disappoint people, they don't feel devastated. They might be disappointed themselves. We feel devastated. And I think under that is shame, rage. I mean, this inner child comes out and stomps around and is like, but I have been a good girl every day.
Exactly.
This year. And one day I fell short, or I was human, or, and the other question I have is, how do you feel when you take care of yourself?
Hey, I want to share with you something that has changed my life. It's more like someone, my therapist. Why is she so important? Well, because I want to win in this life. I want to break through the carousel of stories I've compiled that hold me back, that keep me from expanding into my full potentiality. Stories of unworthiness, not enoughness, and even stories of questioning why I am here. I also want to stop dumping my unsorted feelings on the people around me and reacting with the same behavioral patterns that keep me stuck. Conversations with my therapist have made me more confident, clearer in my intention, and more centered in my spirit. That is why I am elated that we are sponsored by BetterHelp, where you can, from wherever you happen to be right now, match with a therapist tailored to your exact needs. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. Someone who you can text at any time and schedule online for either a chat, Zoom, or phone call. And if it turns out that your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. Visit the link in the show notes, betterhelp.com, when they were young, to get 10% off the first month. You need to click the link in the show notes in order to get the 10% discount. I want to see you win, beloved. Let's do it together. Visit the link, betterhelp.com, when they were young. Well, I'm starting to do that more, to be honest. I just finished reading Honoring the Self, which was mind blowing and life changing and riveting in all the necessary ways. And I love the meme that I put it actually up on Instagram, that says that my self care and safety is urgent, is the most urgent thing. And that is a revolutionary concept for someone like me, that I would put myself first and fill my cup up first and all of those things. And so it's a new thing that I'm standing up to loved ones who are asking things that are beyond my boundaries, and setting up those boundaries and setting them up with cinder blocks, and setting them up first and foremost is very new for me. And now I love it. I feel very liberated when I'm able to do that.
But
And
it's
when
a
people,
process.
exactly. And when people infringe upon that boundary, it does feel like an attack down. It's all very Greek in scale.
So imagine building your boundary and painting, I saw from your website, you're very creative and talented,
Yeah.
painting a sign that says, you know, time for, closed for renovations. Thank you for understanding,
Mm-hmm.
right? Closed for maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an adoptee that I work with. She's an adult. And she said to me, I feel like I have been taught to betray my boundaries my whole life, because we talk a lot about this setting up self care and boundaries with her family, and she's so spot on. I mean, think we all do it to children. Go kiss Uncle Timmy.
Yeah.
Go sit on Jamel's lap, like.
Yeah.
And why are we telling children to do these things? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, that should be your choice, right? So then when you're an adoptee, I think it's even more complicated, because we have this need to please. And it comes from a place that is very primal. It is pre-verbal. I mean, most adoptees experience their trauma before the age of 5,
I
right?
was 4 years old when I was adopted.
Right. So you don't have the language at 4 years of age to express what you're thinking or feeling. But what you do know is, if you want to survive, you better act right. And even if nobody tells you that, it's like you just know it.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. I think really putting into practice and setting up an inner core of people who are on board with your mission. I am setting up boundaries around myself. So if you have a few people that really cheer you on with that and understand, because I find most people in our lives will say, you have to do you, Lenice. You take care of you, except if it's about me.
Yes.
Right. Make sure you take care of yourself. You don't let anybody step over that line until they want you. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I am confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. And the older we get, I think the more we realize that our gifts are valuable and we
Mm-hmm.
have to stop giving them away so cheap.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I had to put myself on a timeout with dating because there's this play by Coward called She Stoops to Conquer. And I feel like that's what I was doing. I was stooping to a lower level, diminishing myself to conquer this idea, this fantasy of a partnership. And it was not working with the people that I happened to be engaging with for a reason. And it's so interesting because you and I talked about intuitive living and moving through the world in the very beginning. But in dating, a lot of times I would overlook the red flags. Um, and I feel like that is something that many people do, especially women, in the pursuit of this fantasy, this thing, this image. Especially as we get older, we feel we have to achieve this thing. And you add on the fact that we're professionally successful and there's this one realm that we fall short. It becomes so niggling, so irritating
It's so
that we,
common though.
you know, that we can't conquer all of the realms all at once. Yeah.
So let me tell you about my husband. So I dated every eligible man in the area within like a 50-mile radius because, like you, I am ambitious, right?
Mhm.
And no grass grows under my feet. And I don't believe that you're going to find joy just by sitting home and waiting for them to come to your door. So I'd go on dates and I would try and I'd get into these relationships and and it would just not work out. And it was this cycle over and over and over again. And then I was set up with the man I am now married to. And at exactly 3 months, I started to like feel all the things. I would shut down. I would feel like I've got to end this. I can't do this. And I started pushing him away. The problem is that he is a really amazing human being, just really a quality soul.
Mhm.
And somehow I was like, I have to look at me. And I went to him and I said, here's the deal. I have done this. This is clockwork. This is 3 months. Everything was going great. And now I'm like pushing you away. I need some time and space to figure this out. I was relinquished as a child, the baby, and it's impacted my ability to connect and attach.
Mhm.
Um, and we worked through that together. Now, we were together for a while, so I knew that he was like the right person to say that to. I'm sorry, there's noise outside my window. Um, but the right person can walk that walk with you. And in order for them to really have an intimate relationship with you, they have to understand all of you, and, the other night we were watching This Is Us together and we were watching Randall talk to his brother, Kevin. And I could see, I knew it. I knew where it was going. And I squeezed his hand and Kevin says to Randall, don't you think you should be more grateful? And my husband gasped
Oh,
because I have goosebumps right now.
yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, I am seen. I am seen in a way that I have been wanting to be seen my whole life.
Yeah.
In a way that my adoptive family, while they may love me and be wonderful and some of my favorite people,
Mm-hmm.
they just can't see me in this way.
Yeah.
And the way that the people I've connected with from my biological family, they just met me, so they can't see me in this way. You only need a few people to really understand like what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pushing through those things that you keep the patterns. Because I'm sure if we sat here for a while, right, we could kind of look at all the things and all
Mm-hmm.
the people, and you could figure out like where you're choosing wrong. And this guy is a totally different choice than what I would normally choose.
Mm.
Um, we choose wrong, and then we sabotage. Friendships are easier, right? We have more mastery over a friendship. We don't let them in as close, even if they're our closest friend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. I feel that relationships in general are so complicated from an adoptee lens because as you touched upon the attachment issues that come up and even in my new position as artistic director of the House Theater, I had this conversation earlier this week, or actually last week, with some company members who are very much just wholeheartedly consumed by their love for the house. And they're like, this is my artistic home. And the idea of a home is not something that I need. I relinquished that idea early on as a child. I was never homesick. I was never attached to anything. And so it's interesting running into people who have that element of commitment that I may not have in this moment. And I love that you mentioned that this person that you ended up with is someone who is vastly different from the other people that you engaged with, because I think that will be the key for me. That will definitely be the key for me. But I can talk to you for hours about this. I want other people to have the opportunity to engage with you. Where can they find you and what services do you give?
So I am in private practice here in Bergen County, New Jersey, which is like half an hour out of New York City. Um, I have a practice where I work with a lot of teenagers and adoptive parents. I'm running a group for adoptive moms right now, which is beautifully challenging and growth inducing and so healing.
Mhm.
Um, and that's going to start wrapping up in the before the summer, and I'm going to take a break, but I will be hosting another one for moms in the fall. I'm looking to start a group for teenagers. I happen to have a good foundation group of them now, but I would love to have a place for adopted teenagers to talk, with myself and adult adoptee about what they go through. And the most interesting thing I have found that I never saw coming was I am in the process of working towards reunion with my birth mom.
Mhm.
Um, but when I was doing this work, I knew that if I was going to work with adoptees and adoptive parents, I had to I had to open the door for birth parents. And so while my own birth mother wouldn't talk to me yet, um, I found birth moms who would.
Mhm.
And some of those conversations, like you and I are sitting here today, I mean, we're just so beautiful. And what I am realizing, because you go online and there's so much vitriol online, there's
Mhm.
so much like, you don't know what you're talking about, or, I have no love for adoptive moms, or I have no love for, angry adoptees. And
Mhm.
what I'm realizing is everybody sort of touched by this feels kind of the same. Like we all feel a version of loss and fear. And so I've been working with birth moms too now,
Mm.
which, and I know that there are some things out there, but one day I would really like to sort of be able to form more community for all of us, because I really try to stay out of the hatred and the anger. I just think nothing comes of it. I understand those feelings. I have plenty of, hard feelings. And the thing I'm most excited about right now is talking about adoptees and love, which is what we talked organically. We talked a lot about, because it's a part of the mountain that I reached. And it's like, now that I'm there, I want to share that with all of my brothers and sisters.
I love that. We want to receive it. So
it's good, Denise. It's good. It is so sad to me that children grow up feeling other than, feeling confused, going through the microaggressions associated with adoption, let alone whatever other microaggressions you're facing in this very cruel world. And then to grow up and to still feel lost and feel unmoored, even after they may have received the most magical childhood through adoption. That breaks my heart.
Yeah. Well, this is a great segue to my final question. Where in your life do you think you can apply courage?
For me, I have to sort of wake up and breathe into courage every day, because as soon as I opened up my personal vulnerability as an adoptee, I opened up a lot. Like, there's nothing left. There's not there. That's it. There's nothing I've held back. And it can be scary, because people can come for you or they can discredit you. And my courage is in walking that walk and saying, this is me, all of me, and not hiding behind my degrees, and being vulnerable and authentic. Takes real courage. And then you find people that's where the connections happen, right? In authenticity.
Yay, I love that. Well, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. It was a good therapy session for me. I'm like, okay, let me not make this about me, because usually I don't talk as much, but you inspired me to chime in more. So thank you for that.
I am kind of gathering data. There are many people that I have talked to for various reasons. And we kind of always wind up back on this love topic. I think maybe because it's something I'm living in right now.
Yeah.
I'm developing a workshop for adult adoptees. And I would love you to be part of that conversation. Well, I appreciate you finding me. What a gift it is to be found.
Yes.
And I hope we continue our conversation. I would really love to give you a squeeze. I'm a hugger. So it's like,
I know.
we have these amazing conversations and I'm like, you're in Chicago, right?
Yeah, I am. Where are you?
I'm in New Jersey, but I'm very close to New York City. So come visit.
Okay. Here are my reflections. Children in general are taught to betray their own boundaries. It's up to the parents to help guide and protect, but also listen to the ways children are made uncomfortable. Adoptees are brought into a house to fill a need. There is an inherent pressure there. Even if you think that the child is the sole beneficiary, which honestly you shouldn't, parents need to examine the saviorism mentality, right? We talked about this in a few episodes, that this saviorism mentality should be obliterated, especially with adoption. There are expectations that are subtly or overtly put on adoptees to fulfill this image. Well, that was incredible. I am searching for a therapist right now that will hopefully be just like Amy. You can find more information on Amy in the show notes, and she's available on Instagram and Facebook. So check her out because her work is amazing. Another beautiful episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to my guest today. If you liked this episode, the best way to support me and this work is to write an iTunes review, a 5-star review. This helps us reach the top of searches and helps more people to find us. And if you personally want to connect, please reach out on Instagram or Facebook. And I have some great resource material on my website at laniceantoineshelley.com. So go on over there too. Until next we meet, go gently and have courage, my love.